Hey, welcome back to Engineer's Workshop. It's been quite a while since I've posted a video. I've been busy working on projects at the house. So between working on the swimming pool heater, getting that up and running, and rebuilding 2 porches and putting fancy columns and siding on, you know, I've had more content I've filmed for that than for this channel over at the shop here. But anyway, I'm here at the Cincinnati number 2 tool and cutter grinder, and I've got a small project that was well suited for this. So I'm going to set that up and show it to you. Grinding joiner knives from a Craftsman 6-inch joiner. You got to make a fixture for that and get those honed up. You can hear my irritated birds. I've got internet birds up in the cabinet there, a little nest they decided to build because I've had the side panels off of it, and boy, that was a nice spot for some wrens or bluebirds or something to put a nest in there. So once they fledge, I'm going to have to clean that out and keep the side panels on to prevent it from reoccurring. But anyway, so I've got a few goodies for the tool and cutter grinder that I think I'll show you first, and then we'll get into this project. I've also got some other equipment that is new, nothing too exciting, but we'll leave that for another video, and then show you what we got on the tool and cutter grinder, do the joiner knives, and call it a day. Now you may recall I do have a workhead for the cutter grinder. That's all I have is the workhead, which is in pretty good shape, but I was figuring I'm going to have to build the right angle attachment and a base. I have a piece of 3/4 by 6-inch angle. I was going to gusset that, make my own adapter, but happened across this on eBay from an auction house that thought it was for a Cincinnati grinder attachment, and it was. So now I have at least the right angle piece and only have to find a base. Feel like Johnny Cash, what's that song, one piece at a time, which is fine with me. I'll build it one piece at a time because that gets me 2/3 of the way there. Now I just have to have the base and then start working on index plates and things for the arbor. So very happy to come across this. Here's an interesting accessory I picked up for the Cincinnati tool and cutter grinder, and according to Don Dyer, Dee, it's pretty rare. It's an internal grinding spindle that mounts to the top of the workhead. You can see it has a pretty long mandrel here, and your small wheels mount on the end. And it's driven by a flat belt just off of the main spindle. I do not have the drive pulley for it, but I will probably use this spacer, turn a smooth OD on this, just enough to clean it up, and then make like an arbor that will mount a drive pulley, because I need to step up the speed from this to, this guy's supposed to run at about 20,000 RPM or so. And right now I think I've got this running about maybe 5,000, but luckily my belts from the Do More tool and cutter grinder are just long enough to actually confirm that this thing works. And I can get proper tension on here. And even though the RPM isn't right, it does spin up pretty smoothly. Feels pretty rock solid. No bearing noise, no play. So I enjoy finding things like this. I just have to figure out what thread is in here. It is not 5/16. It is not 1/4 20. So I'm thinking it's probably 1/4 28. Also got to get it cleaned out. There was a little bit of you know, like grinding dust residue in here, but neat little internal grinding spindle. While I was up in Ohio, answered an ad on Facebook Marketplace for some machinist tooling and got to chatting with the guy. And lo and behold, 40 years ago, when I was co-oping in college, he was a machinist at the same place I work, Packard Electric. It's a division of General Motors. They made the wiring harnesses. And Plant 13 had the R&D office up front. It was a 3/4 mile long string of 5 plants that were all connected. And then the machine shop was in behind the engineering office, the R&D office. So, you know, never met him, but we were in the same place at the same time 40 years ago. So anyway, he had just an absolute ton of things for when the shop closed down. They let him take a lot of tooling home. And he's got a garage that's just smack full of end mills and fixtures and vice jaws. He's in his upper 70s. I don't think he's ever going to use this stuff. And so he started giving me things after I bought them. He made these grinding fixtures that have the thumb screws, and then they lock in position where you want them. Made that one. It's got his initials in it, which is a really nice grinding, you know, dressing fixture there. You got this little button one. I think I'm going to use that to dress this wheel before the next project. And then, you know, I just got a selection of some 3/8 brazed carbide tools. I got a 1-inch 2-flute end mill. It's either a regrind or brand new. Still got the Cosmoline on it. I don't think this one's ever been used. Nice finishing cutter. 3/4 inch high speed. And I've got I believe this is a 3/16, real, actually too long. I probably should grab one of his shorter ones. This is a Brown and Sharp. Oh, it's 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch with a 3/8 shank, sharp alloy. And then a couple other dressing stones. But he said make him a list, and next time I'm up there, you know, I can get more items from him. I want to get some spare vice jaws for the Kurt vise. He has several sets of those. Just want to verify the bolt pattern on that, and you know, write down a selection of end mills to augment the things that I already have. Let's get on to the project here and get working on these joiner knives. Answered a separate ad on Facebook Marketplace while I was up there, and I got 8 1, 2, 3 blocks, 7 basically from the same type, and one a little bit oddball, different hole pattern. But I'm pretty set now. I had one pair that I bought, I think it was a Shars pair, but now I've got enough to do multiple setups and leave them in place. I have a quick grinding project to do on the tool and cutter grinder for my woodworking equipment, and that is sharpening my 6-inch joiner. This is a Craftsman joiner. These blades are fairly common. They're actually 6 1/8 long, 1/8 inch thick, and these are all checking about 800 thousandths wide. Remarkably consistent on the height of or I guess the overall width of the blades, which tells me that they've not been sharpened too often. And it was the perfect opportunity for me to use my ultra cheap Chinesium tilting table. If you don't stare at it too hard, it doesn't move, and it's got all the features of what you would expect for something that costs, I believe, $79. Pretty poor machining, kind of a rough fit. You can tell that this thing doesn't turn, you know, tilt very consistently, but once you lock it down, it's reasonably rigid and certainly good enough for holding the knives. And the first step was to get it attached to the auxiliary table of the tool and cutter grinder, and getting this to tram in within about 1 thousandths, which I have. And this is set at the rough angle of the blades being held in this orientation with the bevel held horizontally. And I come up with a relatively novel way, I believe, of fixturing this. So let me show you the next steps. So here's my braid idea for supporting the knives. I'm going to use 2 gauge blocks, and these will be clamped with another parallel at the bottom. So I'm putting pressure just on the gauge block, and I will then be able to put another parallel on top of the gauge blocks and indicate that surface in. I mentioned that the 3 knives were very consistent. Let's just call it their width, but unfortunately the angles are not. So I'm kind of just striking a happy medium with these and tramming it front to back so that I'm not removing tons and tons of material from one edge versus the other. Next step is to tram the back edge. I'm going to replace this. Let's run this out. And we're going to put a parallel on here, and I'm going to tram this back edge and make sure that we're not, if this is tilted, then one edge of the planer knife is going to be uphill relative to the other. So we got to get this straight next. I'm going to take that as a win. My guess, just placing these by hand, got me within 10 thousandths end to end. So I'm very slightly high on this end. Within a couple tenths there. I'm within a 0.5 thousandths, and I'm going to call that good enough. I relieved the center of this so it would bear on the outer ends of this wood block. A couple of the planer knives have a little bit of a bow in it in the center, and so that's going to help hold them flat. And that's within a couple thousandths. Okay. I'm going to use one of my new diamond nibs here and do a quick dressing of the grinding wheel. One last thing I'm going to do, and I hope I don't regret this. I have everything set up so the top surface of that knife should be parallel. And right now it would be grinding basically right along that edge. I want to grind into the cutting edge just slightly so that I'm not raising a burr. And so I'm going to loosen these. I'm going to cock the table here with the vernier just a little bit. So that technically when I'm grinding this edge, it is coming into it. At some point I may be grinding this wood back a little bit, which I get, but let's go for it. And by that smell, that is oak that I smell. Just a quick progress check here shows that I'm hitting the back edge a little bit more, but basically contacting all along and creeping up on that front edge. The thumping that you hear is when it's hitting that oak. So I'm going to have to just deal with it until that's basically ground down out of my way. But the edge is cleaning up pretty nicely. It's ready for a final honing. Still a tiny bit of a burr on the back side, but I will stone these, and the edge does look very straight, so I think we're good. 2 more to go. Here is the Craftsman 6-inch joiner that the blades came from, and this was refinished by me. Normally these have a brushed aluminum wraparound feature. This particular make. There was a company that made a bunch of these tools for Craftsman. I forget the name of them, but that was pretty chewed up, so I just painted it. But I think I also had the tabletops reground lightly. Didn't clean up 100%, but I didn't want to take off too much material. But they are pretty doggone flat, so I'm gonna maybe use this as a surface to finish honing up the blades. I have a Norton Washita oil stone. It's nice and flat. I'm going to be using that. I'm going to try removing the burr with a Japanese water stone that's 800 grit. Let's see if that is rough enough to do what I need it to do. That's not having much of an effect. I've got to get coarser yet. It's doing it all right. The edge is getting there. It's going to take a little more honing, but you get the idea. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, getting those knives ground for the Sears Craftsman 6-inch joiner. I'm going to be getting that set up and giving it to a friend, a college buddy of mine in Michigan who's gotten into woodworking lately. And since I have the 8-inch Fay and Egan joiner, the Craftsman 6-inch joiner is just another redundant tool. So I'm going to pay that forward and send that up to him, actually take it up to him, so he can increase his arsenal of tools and his capabilities as a woodworker. So hope you enjoyed it. Try to keep cool in this summer heat that we have now. I'll try to post another video with that new equipment a little bit more quickly than I did posting this one. But till then, as always, stay safe.